So I know a lot of these Terraria World Tours have been a little bit random. I kind of just show builds that I think are really interesting, and yeah, that's not going to change. We're going to keep doing it because it works for me, and I like to just sort of highlight all the different things that we're doing. Hey folks, welcome back to another Terraria World Tour. In this one, we're going to keep that randomness alive by showing you two very different builds. The first one is going to be our Eye of Sauron tribute. It turned out pretty good. It was kind of tricky. There's sort of a 3D element to it, and also it's very dark, and it hits the right notes, but it was tricky. The second build I absolutely love. It is our sort of Floating Cottage build. And it hits all the right notes. It's sort of right down my alley, lots of woods, kind of simple, and yeah, just sort of an accessible build that I really hope you guys will like. So for those of you that are curious, yes, both of these builds are actually already on the channel as speed builds. So if you do want to check those videos, I will post at the end of the video some links to go to that. You can also just check the channel and find them for yourself. But basically you can see how those builds these builds actually come together in a speed build, so it'll only take about 8 to 10 minutes and kind of gives you an idea of all the issues that I deal with. Now, if you're not satisfied with the speed builds, you can catch me live every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Twitch. Link is down below. Now, guys, I am a variety streamer, so I do actually stream about 3 to 5 days a week, depending on the week. At the same time, however, Terraria Tuesday is a thing, and that is when we build, and we encourage you guys to show up, hang out, and even join us to build something yourself. So with the Twitch plug out of the way, let's get to the builds. But before that, like and subscribe. Did you do it? Okay, good. Let's get to the builds. All right, folks, so here we are at our first build. Now, for the Eye of Sauron sort of tribute that I made, you're going to need only a few blocks if you want to make it like I did. So for the walls, it's going to be gray brick, crimson scab wall, some ebonstone brick, some lead fence, some green slab wall, some shadewood fence, some living leaf wall, and some green brick wall. For the blocks, guys, nothing crazy. Some palladium column, living fire block, blue brick, green brick, and some ebonstone brick as well, and obviously a variety of paints. You can change these up. I use some pink, I use some deep purple, which I don't typically use, but everything is basically white, black, and gray otherwise. So as always, I encourage you to pause the video here should you want to take a closer look at all the materials that I've used. Again, guys, if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below, and I will happily respond to that. So with that being said, let's go check out the build. All right, folks, so here we are at our Eye of Sauron build. Now, I realize that this is built on an island. It's not what I really necessarily wanted, but because our world is very much filled with builds, it's very difficult to actually find a spot to make this, so I had to make my own little corrupted sky island. So as you can see, the base of this is going to be some ebonstone, and then the walls in the background are going to be a mix of purple or deep purple painted leaf wall, and then some sort of craggy wall, and also some, I think we used also some dirt wall in some places as well. Nothing too crazy, guys, very simple, but we definitely wanted that corrupt look. So to keep with that corrupted looking theme, we made our trees very barren. What we did was we just, did our usual tree with some rich mahogany, or living mahogany, I should say, and then we painted that black. And yeah, it just kind of has a very simple tree design, but it looks pretty good. So for the build itself, as you can see, the base of this is a lot of lizard tables along some of our dungeon brick. I believe this is green brick, but it could be blue, I can't remember. And we just kind of use that throughout. And then we randomly put some palladium columns to give it kind of a different effect. So you'll also notice a bit of a 3D effect in this build. That is because we actually painted these different colors. So I do not believe that these are actuated, because as you can see, I can't quite go through them. These are just painted gray. The middle remains a sort of neutral color, the original gray color. And then over here, we have painted these white. What this does is give it a little bit of a 3D look to it. It's not perfect. It's a very simple way to do this, but overall, it gives it kind of a bigger, more, I guess, interesting look. So for the gate, I don't anticipate a lot of questions, but it was pretty simple, and so I figure I'll just address it now. This is just palladium column. These are some ebonstone walls in the back. And then we have some ebonstone, blocks around the outside, and it has a really good sort of clean look to it. And we also added some of our lead fence. And again, I think it gives it kind of an interesting look, something a bit different. I wish the background would be darker. However, you can't do that, and it will remain transparent. So as we continue to climb up our tower, you're going to notice that we have a lot of these windows. These were quite simple to make. We, again, just use our palladium column, some ebonstone brick, and just shape them into sort of various designs. Nothing crazy. I also realized that the actual Eye of Sauron in the movie Lord of the Rings probably doesn't have these windows, but I figured we needed something a little bit more interesting. The other place that we added some palladium column is on the sides here. As you can see, it kind of adds this interesting effect. I don't think it looks the best in some areas, but I do like that it looks a little bit more distinct, adds a bit of smoothness, and almost gives a sort of 3D effect as well here. So as we come to the top of the build, you're of course going to see the actual Eye of Sauron. Now, not surprisingly, this is our living fire block, but these inserts that kind of make the eye shape is actually, I believe, leaf wall. This is painted pink, and this leaf wall here is actually painted black or shadow. I can't remember which, but basically a dark color to make it look like the iris. For the remainder of the topper, guys, we just shaped all this into a different design and alternated various blocks. Again, we have our palladium column in here, we have our ebonstone brick, and then of course we added various dungeon bricks, both green and I believe blue in random spots, just to give it a different shape. For the rest of this, we kind of just designed some pointed down areas here and kind of left this in the foreground. I think I probably could have done something similar going further down, so I did it here, but perhaps some additional pieces here or there might have added a little bit more of a design. This feels a little flat in some places, regardless of having all these windows and all this other stuff. I just feel like maybe perhaps a little bit more could have been added here, but as always, guys, as I say, it takes me about 4 or 5 hours to do these builds, and I do not have that much time. So to add an extra few bits and pieces after the fact can actually add 20, 30, 40 minutes, and I just simply don't have the time. And before anyone asks about this little altar, I kind of just made this up as I went. These are some sort of platforms made to look like stairs, some palladium column, I think, angled at the top, and then we have 2 lizard brick tables here, and then I believe this is a platform that has been hammered flat above it. And it actually looks really good, so I really like the way this turned out. Again, I wish I could have maybe added some more flames or some candles or something just to make it a little bit more interesting. But overall, guys, really happy with how this build turned out. So with that being said, guys, let us move on to our second build. All right, folks, so here we are at our second build. This is our Floating Cottage build. Now, this build, guys, is a lot more sort of my style. Very simple, sort of 2D, no 3D elements at all, and just kind of clean woods and stone, and it fits up my alley. So, as always, let's walk you through the materials. Now, I know at first glance this looks like a lot of different things, but really, guys, the only unique blocks I don't typically use are going to be our copper brick wall, some green mossy wall, our cobalt brick wall, which I have used in a few builds, but I don't use too often, and then some silly green balloon wall, which, guys, the balloon walls I'm actually starting to use more frequently, so I can't even say that this is sort of infrequent, but generally speaking, we don't use this too often. So as always, I invite you to pause the video here. If you have any questions about the materials, if you don't know a material, by all means, guys, please leave me a comment down below, and then we'll definitely get back to you. All right, so with that being said, let's go check out the second build. All right, folks, so here we are at our second build. This is our floating cottage. Now, of course, it's floating because we're actually on a floating island. I even put a little bit more work into the clouds. I typically don't do anything too special, but here we actually use some cloud blocks, some cloud wall, and some rain clouds that give it kind of a darker look to it. And I kind of like the rain, kind of made more sense to me because we have these kind of inlets built into it as well. And it kind of gives sort of a, a bit of a texture to our build and makes it look a little bit more almost 3D in a way. Now, the only place that we used our copper brick wall was actually at the door entrances, I believe. And I think it looks really good because it kind of has a little bit of a different look and it kind of blends away from our sort of normal ebonstone brick wall and our, I believe this is our blue slab wall. So we try to make it look a little bit different. We also went with a lot of spooky wood wall, which I really like for this build. It just has a nice kind of sort of worn down feel, which looks really good. And then we kept everything very sort of simple, which is how I think of cottages. Beyond that, guys, you'll see some other interesting features. This is just some dynasty wood wall coming down, and then into the center of this is actually our living mahogany. So we did that here, here, and here. And the idea on these ones is that this is actually capped with our stone slab, and it just has a nice little look to it. So if we move upstairs, we're going for a bit more of a cleaner look. We have our dynasty walls. We have 3 of the same pictures because I just sort of like the symmetry and the look. And of course, we have our door, which in this case, the frame of the door in particular is interesting. We use different woods here to kind of cap this in. So I believe this is actually column. This is our palladium column here, painted brown. And then we went with some living mahogany. And I don't like the way this looks. So as you can see, this is obviously an active teleporter. And the idea was just to have something that looked a little bit fancier for our doorways or entrances. It's not something I typically think about, but I actually do like the way that this looks. Now, in our sort of sleeping seating area, we do have a little trophy. We have some chests, we have our beds and a bed frame. This is just our palladium column painted black. platform painted black, and of course a wood wall in the background painted black as well to give it sort of that support structure and look to it. For the top here, I believe we use some bookshelf painted brown. This is a nice sort of platform that you can use, adds a little bit of sort of design. I think we could have used it in more places. You know, we did use it down here, but in general, we could have maybe made more use of it, but I do like the way it looks. And again, we went with these kind of clean, big windows, some vertical ebonwood walls just to give it a better effect, and of course a kind of odd looking window that we sprinkled in. So for the top room, it's kind of a bit of a storage area. I think we could have done some different things, but I really wanted this window. So once I had that, I realized I had to kind of make this sort of more of a storage area, and we just added odds and ends. Again, nothing crazy, guys. Here we decided to go with some ebonwood wall for the vertical, and then of course we went across with some normal wood, and then for the actual beams that are sort of supporting the structure in the background, this is where we did our spooky wood walls. So for the roof, I am happy to report that I actually like this roof. It looks pretty good. Here we went with sort of a cross hatch pattern or a cross stitch pattern where we just alternated doing a wood wall with an ebonwood wall for the vertical, and then kept going. And I just think it looks really good. It's a pretty simple design. It does take a little bit of time when you're making it this big, but it kind of adds a bit of a different feel to this build, and I do like the overall look. The platform here, guys, was an addition that I think you could probably remove or switch with something else, but I do like the way it looks instead of having our boreal wood go all the way up and across, because I just think that would have looked a lot more clunky. So there you go, guys. There is our cottage build done. If you'd like to see this as a speed build, guys, that video is already posted on the channel, so you can go find that and take a quick look. Should only be about 5 to 10 minutes. All right, folks, so there you go. There is our tribute to the Eye of Sauron, as well as our floating cottage. Now, if you guys have any questions about the builds, as I've said, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I will respond to those as quick as I can. Of course, if this is related to materials or some suggestions, or even if you want me to sort of build something, let me know what you think. I'm gonna, I'm taking suggestions. And speaking of suggestions, if I might be so bold, I do suggest that you go check out some of our other videos. We have a lot of speed builds up as well, guys, as well as about, what, 18 or 19 other world tours. I don't even know anymore. There's a lot of them, so go check them out, guys. I'd appreciate it. And of course, as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.